Hey, what is going on, guys? Rudilanel here, come back at you with another batch tutorial. Alright, now in this video we're going to be taking a look at some more string functions, and today we're actually going to be testing whether or not a string is full of entirely alphabetical characters, or only letters. So if it's an uppercase letter, that's fine. If it's a lowercase letter, that's fine. But if it's a number, if it's like a punctuation mark or any white space character, dude, we better throw a temper tantrum and just start rolling around screaming. So that's exactly what we're going to be working with today, though. I'll get CMD ready to go, but in our script there is a couple of quirks we might have to try and deal with, because there isn't a whole lot we can do about it. But I'll show you what I mean. If we were to call our script, I think I want to call it string is alpha, and I'll dot bat. Alright, now we can start with our add echo off and that sort of thing, but the syntax should be call string is alpha. We'd pass in our string, or the content, which is the variable that I'll be using, and then our return variable as usual. So first we're actually going to need some information about what we're going to be working with, because we want to be able to test whether or not some of the letters are uppercase or lowercase. So we need to be able to monitor the things that aren't an uppercase or lowercase letter. So what we're going to do is actually create an array of all of these things that are bad. So we're actually just going to go ahead and call this array bad stuff, or at least that's what I'm going to call mine. You can obviously call it whatever you'd like. It is a variable. It may vary, but we're going to be using things that aren't letters. So actually our delimiter is going to be a letter, and we can actually change this to be A. You can use anything, but make sure it works throughout. So ours is going to have all of the bad stuff separated by A's. So I'm going to use an exclamation point, A, and just try and go through every single character on your keyboard that is not a letter. Now, that may be pretty hard to do, but try and keep an eye out for things that are on your keyboard that are in the lowercase, actually, the numbers right up at the top of your keyboard, and then move over to some of the braces and brackets, whatever you'd like to call them. Make sure you get pipe symbols, make sure you get forward slashes and backslashes, get semicolons and everything. But the thing is, we are eventually going to hit the double quotation mark, and we can't actually use that, but that's only because it's inside of a string here. So that's kind of one of the drawbacks of it. And we also can't use the greater than or less than symbols, because those are used for redirection. So we're going to have to avoid those as well. We can use our numbers, though. And we can even use a space character, because that's one of the most important things. Okay, so at this point I think we've got everything. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Oh, I do have an extra plus sign in there. I think I want that to be an equal sign. Okay, yeah, that should be all of them. But the only quirk and the only problem with this is that we can't actually use the greater than or less than symbols, or the waka wakas, whatever you want to call them, and we can't use our double quotation marks because it's inside of a string to begin with. But really, that's not all that big of a deal, because since those are for redirection or for a specific purpose, it's not very likely you're going to have them in a string to begin with. So, whatever. And we are going to actually need to be able to work with the information that we're passing to the program. So content is a string variable. We can set content to go ahead and equal whatever we pass to it. And we're going to need some limits, because we are, of course, going to be looping. So we'll go ahead and test the content length, subtract 1 from there. And, of course, we'll need the bad stuff limit. We're going to be looking through that as well. Alright. Next, we can go ahead and actually set up whether we want a return variable to be what we need it to be. Because since it's sort of like testing if, let's say if an is here, it's a either yes or no question. It either is alphabetical or it's not alphabetical. This return statement is a Boolean thing, just like we were looking at before. And so it's going to be 1 by default, but it is our second argument. So set %2 to equal 1. So by default, yeah, we'll trust it. Maybe it doesn't contain any bad stuff. But then we actually go ahead and test it with our loop. So for-l, I'll use g inside of a set of counting up to our limit from 0. And while we're looping, we can go ahead and do. And here we'll set the character like we normally do. Set character to equal the value of our content, getting the current position onward. Okay, so now we know the current character that we're at. And now we can continue to loop again because we need to actually loop through the bad stuff and test whether or not our character is in the bad stuff. Because if it is, then we've got a problem. So we'll test if our character is actually equal to the current position. Oh, and actually this should be a different variable than what we've been using up at the outermost loop. So I'm going to use h here for the inside loop. If that's equal to the string formation of our bad stuff with the h index, then that means that we've got a problem, and we can set our return type to equal 0, so it's not all alphabetical, and we can hurry up and just go to the end because we don't want to bother looping through it anymore. So we've got the end right there, and we're ready to go. Okay, so this is pretty simple, but it does have a lot to work with and some strange quirks in the bad stuff array. And now let's create a new script to actually work with this, though. If I call mine script.bat, and this is just a typical script like we would normally be working with in any other regular day. Now what we can do is go ahead and call create string. I'll call mine string, and it can just say this, and that's all. Now I'll go ahead and call string is alpha. We'll pass in the value of our string, and we can set up a return variable to just be return. Now if we echo out the value of return, we should get 1. And I've already got CMD open, I don't have to bother with that. If I run script, boom, we get 1. But if I were to add a space in here, we get 0 because it's not entirely alphabetical. If I had any numbers in here, it'll still find 0. If it's a capital letter, though, it still actually works because capital letters are obviously still part of the alphabet. So all this really does is test whether or not it's an alphabet. It is an alphabet or not. So that's all. Thank you very much for watching, though, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. It is a little bit disappointing that we can't use all of those functionalities, like the you know, exclamation points and waka wakas, greater than and less than symbols, but that's okay. We wouldn't normally be using those in a string to begin with, and that sort of thing. But anyway, that's enough of me talking. I'll let you guys get back to your day, and stay awesome, guys. Goodbye.